Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Art of War, Chapter 2, Doing Battle. Someone suggested that I call this Monkey Monkey Literature Club. How do you guys feel about that? Do like a little,
I like it.
little doki doki intro? I don't know, maybe we'll do it next time. Before we get started on Chapter 2, I wanted to clear up something. So last time, when we were talking about calculations, I mentioned that the Heaven and Earth section wasn't that important. And people were pointing out, like, what are you talking about, TFM? Heaven and Earth is extremely important. And if you don't remember, Heaven and Earth is basically the seasons, the time of day, hot or cold. And then Earth was like near or far, well defended or open, narrow, and so forth. And these are incredibly important when you're talking about a specific battle. So if you think about, like, the movie 300 or the Battle of Thermopylae, that was all based on Heaven and Earth. The Spartans chose the pass of Thermopylae to funnel the Persians in so they could basically mow them down by the thousands, even though they had very few soldiers to work with. So Heaven and Earth is very important when it comes to actual war. The reason why I didn't spend too much time on it, and I said it wasn't that important, was because when it comes to a general concept, there's really not much to say about it. Obviously, when you're going to engage in battle, you need to know what the weather's going to be, the time and the place of the battle, the elevation, the terrain, all that stuff, high ground. That's all extremely important for an actual battle. But that's pretty basic. There's really not much else to say. So that's why I kind of just glossed over it. But I didn't want to imply that it's never useful. But, I'm not just talking about actual war. I'm trying to apply the principles of the art of war towards, like, other things like, gynocentrism in society, not just actual physical combat. So that's why I didn't want to spend too much time on that, and that's why I said it wasn't that important. Don't read into that too much. Obviously, it is important when it comes to real war. All right. So hopefully that cleared things up. So Chapter 2, Doing Battle. Now, again, this first sentence of the chapter is one of those examples of things that really aren't that important in a general sense, but it does demonstrate a point, so I'll just read it. It says, quote, "Generally, the requirements of warfare are this way. 1,004 horse chariots, 1,000 leather chariots, 100,000 belted armor, transportation provisions 1,000 kilometers, the distribution of internal and on-the-field spending, the efforts of having guests, materials such as glue and lacquer, tributes in chariots and armor will amount to expenses of 1,000 gold pieces a day." So specifically, this is great if you want to know about, like, how ancient China, waged war. But in a modern context, who cares? Well, what this is really saying, the principle you want to glean from this is war is fucking expensive. That's really what like in the previous chapter, we talked about calculations. Well, this is a huge calculation you need to do. Before you engage in war, you need to know, can you afford it? Do you have the money, like what DDJ would call, do you have the horsepower? When he talks about, challenging things in court, do you have the horsepower to win? Because it doesn't make sense for you to, like, challenge this, I'm gonna fight this to the Supreme Court, but you can't afford a lawyer. If you can't afford to do the battle, you can't afford to do the battle. You might as well cut your losses. So whether it's a courtroom or whether it's a battlefield, you have to have the money to support the war. Otherwise, you're fucked. So the second part, only then can 100,000 troops be raised. And this part, section 3 of this chapter is the key to this chapter. Section 3 says, quote, "When doing battle, seek a quick victory. A long battle will blunt weapons and diminish ferocity. If troops lay siege to a walled city, their strength will be exhausted. If the army is involved in a long campaign, the nation's resources will not suffice. When weapons are blunted and ferocity diminished, strength exhausted, and resources depleted, the neighboring rulers will take advantage of these complications. Then even the wisest of counsels will not be able to avert the consequences that must ensue." So the key is, once you've done your calculations, once you've determined you have the advantage against your opponent, depending, we talked about the way and heaven and earth and so forth and logistics, you know where your opponent is weak, you know where you are strong, you have the advantage, you know that battle is advantageous, you've calculated, you know what you need to do, and you're ready to execute. When you execute, you go hard, fast, and continuously. You do not fuck around. You do not You do not give warning shots. You fucking crush them. You crush them utterly as quickly as possible. And there's many reasons for this. But the main reason is it's to cut your own losses down. If you, like, the thing is because I'm an Iraq war veteran, in case anyone didn't know. In the second Iraq war, the one I was involved in, there was this policy called shock and awe, where we went into Iraq and we just fucked them up. We fucked everything up. It was glorious. And if you want to talk about the actual war in Iraq was over in like a day. The government was toppled. Their infrastructure was destroyed. Their army was in complete disarray. The war was over in a day. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, wasn't the Iraq war, wasn't that like years and years? No. That was the post-war rebuilding period. What would, like, if you were thinking about World War II, it would be the equivalent of the Marshall Plan. Because after the Nazis and Imperial Japan surrendered, we started to rebuild Europe. That's what we did in Iraq. Basically, the government of Saddam Hussein was gone. We were rebuilding the country. And for whatever reason, that was still called the Iraq War, even though it wasn't a war. There was an insurgency, but it wasn't a war. The war was over in a day. That's how you fight war. And I would also add that the mistake we made in, Iraq and Afghanistan is we have this policy of rebuilding our enemies after we destroy them. And the reason why we did that during the Cold War, like after World War II, because of the Marshall Plan, the purpose of the Marshall Plan was to rebuild these countries, because if we didn't, the Soviet Union would take them over. Because a lot of these countries that were destroyed by Nazi Germany were basically impoverished, and then the Soviet Union would come in and make them part of the Soviet Union. So the Soviet Union was spreading throughout all these countries that were ravaged during World War II. So to prevent them from basically taking over Europe during the Cold War, we had to rebuild these European countries using our money to keep them from basically being taken over by the Soviet Union. Okay, so that's fine. During the Cold War, it made sense. If you're going to go to war, after you take them out, you have to rebuild them so the Soviet Union doesn't take them over. Fine. But there isn't a Soviet Union anymore. Why did we rebuild Iraq? There was literally no reason to. And then at the end, after years and years and all the money we spent, all the people who died, we left Iraq, and what happened? Fucking ISIS took over. So it's like, we accomplished nothing. We just prolonged the inevitable. It was going to that was what's going to happen anyway. So what the fuck were we doing? So the point is, you wage a war, you go in there, you fuck shit up, like, you go hard, fast, and continuous. You fuck everything up. And unless there's a really good reason for you to stay there, like, you don't. There was no... Think about all the money we wasted, all the people who died for nothing. Like Iraq is still a shithole. Like, nothing was accomplished. But, so that's where we fucked up. It wasn't the war part, the shock and awe. You get a thumbs up from Sun Tzu for shock and awe. The post-war rebuilding and spending your own money and blood that was fucking retarded. Sun Tzu does not approve. Okay, so continuing on with chapter 2, section 8. Therefore, I have heard of military campaigns that were clumsy but swift, but I have never seen military campaigns that were skilled but protracted. No nation has ever benefited from protracted warfare. And that's a very key thing. Like, this goes to what we're talking about the last chapter. It's, you want to use deception, everything. You got to think outside the box, out crazy them, all that stuff. Do what works, but you have to do it quickly. It has to get results now. It can't be like this 100-year plan where you plant a seed and in 100 years it's going to grow into a mighty oak. When you're talking about war, you need results now. Because every day, like with the first section, every day you're in war, you're spending 100,000 gold pieces, or 1,000 gold pieces a day in ancient China. It's a shit ton of money. So you don't want to drag the war out because you're depleting your nation's resources. So you want to end the war as quickly as possible. You want to crush them. You want to find the enemy weakness and hit them. So it's better to be moving towards something. Now again, like our first chapter, you don't want to act too recklessly. You want to make sure you do your calculations. But once your calculations are made, once the battle is engaged, once you're actually in the fight, you need to move. You don't want to be like, you don't want to take your time. You want to move. You want to have a plan. You want to execute. Now, obviously, you need to, keep a lay of the land and make sure things are going well and adapt accordingly. But you don't want to stop moving and try to, it's like there's a thing you learn in business school that when you are the decision maker, you make the best decision you can with the information you have at the time, and you don't second guess yourself. Once you get the information you have, if you have to make the decision now, you make the decision now. Even if you have imperfect information, you have to make the decision now. Because by not making a decision, if you're like waiting for more information, you're wasting resources. So make the decision based on the information you have at the time, even if it's imperfect, and then that's it. You move on. You don't second guess yourself. And if you're wrong, you correct. It's better, like there's a saying in the military, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. So you do what you think is correct based on the information you have, and if you're wrong, you apologize and you ask for forgiveness. But that's much better than waiting around for perfect information and then asking for permission, and then you've wasted all these resources, you've lost your opportunity, and now you're fucked. All right, section 9. It says, therefore, if one is not fully cognizant of the dangers inherent in doing battle, one cannot fully know the benefits of doing battle. Those skilled in doing battle do not raise troops twice or transport provisions 3 times. Take equipment from home, but take provisions from the enemy. Then the army will be sufficient in both equipment and provisions. A nation can be impoverished by the army when it has to supply the army at great distances. When provisions are transported at great distances, the citizens will be impoverished. Those in proximity to the army will sell goods at high prices. When goods are expensive, the citizens' wealth will be exhausted. When their wealth is exhausted, the peasantry will be affected with increased taxes. So we're talking about like cause and effect. So if you're going to be skilled, again, he's talking about you don't want to raise troops twice. You don't want to have a protracted battle and have to be like, okay, a lot of my troops were killed. I'm going to need more soldiers to come from, whatever your homeland or whatever to replenish my army. If you have to do that, you fucked up. Why are we replenishing army? Why isn't the war already over? You got fucking your ass kicked probably. Or if you have to move your provisions 3 times in this example, you're probably on the run. You're probably like, doubling back. Like shit has gone horribly wrong. And if that happens, it's probably because you were not doing your calculations correctly. Or you were engaging an enemy that you either didn't read correctly, didn't understand, or weren't prepared to win against. And if you can't win against the enemy, you do not engage them. So like Sun Tzu was talking about the art deception. You appear strong when you're weak and appear weak when you're strong. Appear where your enemy doesn't expect you. If you can't win, fucking ghost. Do not directly engage an enemy if you can't win. Because if you do, you're going to get your shit pushed in. And then you're going to be going back like, okay, I need more troops. I need more supplies. And then like what Sun Tzu's talking about, if you have to do that, you're going to impoverish your nation. Or in this case, you're going to exhaust your resources in your support network. Like imagine if, actually this is a good example. You ever support a Kickstarter and like they meet their goal, and then like a couple months into the project they tell you, oh, there were some unexpected costs, we're going to have to have a second fundraiser just to get the original thing that they already successfully funded. They told you we're going to have this like a video game if we raise $100,000. So they got $100,000, and then they come back a couple months later asking for another $100,000 because they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. At that point, even if you really wanted that game, you've probably lost confidence in that developer to actually make the game. Because why in the fuck are they asking for more money? Did they not do their research? Did they not know how much a game costs? Now you've lost all credit. You've lost all credibility. So in that same way, whether it's Kickstarter, whether it's the army, whether it's anything, you're going to lose credibility with your supporters if you have to constantly go back and ask for more support after they've already supported you. Like if you say, look, this is what I need to win, and they provide that to you, and then you come back later saying, I need more, you're going to lose them. You would lose me. I'll be like, okay, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. We need someone who actually isn't fucking retarded to do the thing if it's that important. Because clearly, you're not up to the task. So anyway, so the section 15, therefore a wise general will strive to feed off the enemy. 1 bushel of the enemy's provisions is worth 20 of our own. 1 pickle of fodder is worth 20 of our own. And what he means by that is getting resources from your enemy saves you so much money, because not only do you not have to get the food from your own citizens, and then, like, this is another thing. When I was in Iraq, we were like flying in all this food from everywhere. Like, we had all these contractors and all this. I mean, the food was amazing, but like it was insane the amount of money it cost. Like, again, like, what a waste of money. It's crazy. And for what? What did we do? Like, it was for nothing. Like, we left Afghanistan, it's still a shithole. We left Iraq, it turned into ISIS. Like, what the fuck was all that for? What a waste of money, what a waste of blood. So, yeah, you want to, yeah, so this whole bullshit, like, oh, we don't pillage, you fuck with us. If you give us a reason to come to your country and push your shit in, you goddamn right we're taking your shit. We're gonna eat your food. We're gonna take everything that's not nailed down, because you don't fuck with us. How about that? How about next time you think about, maybe we should kill these Americans? They're like, whoa. Let's not kill the Americans, because otherwise they're gonna come over here and they're gonna fuck our shit up and they're gonna take everything. So let's not. That's a good idea. Thanks for talking me out of it. But when they know, like, oh, let's fuck with these Americans, because then they're gonna come in here, take out our fucking dictator, and then build schools and roads with their own money. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. You've given them an incentive to start fucking with you. It's like why you don't negotiate with terrorists. If you negotiate with terrorists and pay their ransom, they're going to kidnap more people and demand more ransom. But if the first time they demand a ransom, you fucking bomb them to hell, they're not going to take any more hostages. Like, oh shit, every time we take a hostage, we just get killed. Stop taking hostages. It doesn't work. But when you pay the ransom, they're going to, oh, this works. Keep kidnapping people. Yeah, this is fucking, we could do this all day. All right. We got 3 more sections, and we're done with the chapter. Replace the enemy's flags and standards with our own. Mix the captured chariots with our own and treat the captured soldiers well. This is called defeating the enemy and increasing our strength. Therefore, the important thing in battle is victory, not protracted warfare. Therefore, a general who understands warfare is the guardian of people's lives and the ruler of the nation's security. So, yeah, again, just fucking take their shit. Replace their flags, take their armor, take their weapons. Like, hey, here's a free gun. Everyone gets a gun. Yay, free guns. You know, and treat their soldiers well, you know, because it's not their fault. They didn't, like, they're just following orders. There's no reason to, you know, take it out on them, especially if they've surrendered. But yeah, this would be called common sense, you know, 1,000 years ago, and now it's like you're a war criminal if you do any of this shit. All right, so next chapter is going to be on planning attacks. So again, we're kind of like, we've talked about in general how you conduct warfare. Now we're going to talk about, all right, you've decided you're going to attack this enemy. So how do you plan your attack? So it's going to be a good chapter. Stay tuned next week for chapter 3, planning attacks.